On November 30th, 2022, Sonic's social media channels would issue out a roadmap for the upcoming content that we would get in Sonic Frontiers. These updates would be released in 3 batches. Update 1, releasing on March 22nd of this year, would contain a music player, photo mode, and some trial challenges in the open zone and cyberspace. Update 2, releasing on Sonic's birthday, would have a new menu overlay, some new cosmetic stuff in celebration of Sonic's birthday, new Coco, and some open zone action challenges, and once beaten them all, would unlock the Spin Dash, which is fucking so fun to use, like holy shit. And finally, Update 3, released in September 28th, would contain an alternate ending to Sonic Frontiers, which would also include some new challenges, new playable characters in Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, who haven't been playable in a 3D game since Sonic 06, I want to say, so about 17 years. And now here we are in today's day and age. The Final Horizon has been out for a couple of weeks now, and so what does little old me think of it? Well, let's first summarize what happened in the plot first. Once you load up your current save file, Sonic Frontiers tells you that there's a mysterious portal that appeared somewhere on Aranos Island, and once you enter it, it loads up all the new content. After Sonic goes through the portal, he runs into Sage and Eggman, who gives us an idea on how we can prevent the Great Cataclysm. Remember when I said that in my last review? No? Okay. Anyways, Sage takes a bit of Sonic cyber corruption and frees Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, so now each of them are tasked with finding the Chaos Emeralds, while he takes care of something else. And Eggman rudely interrupts our little pep talk to say, "Get on with it already! Bitch, don't rush us!" So up first we start playing as Amy, and I'll talk about how she plays in a bit. We locate the Chaos Emerald Vault and come up short sadly, but then Amy gets an idea from her tarot cards telling her to talk to the Elder Coco. Once we find him, all he tells us is that they hid them from the Great Cataclysm in order to try and save themselves. Next we run into the Hermit Coco, whose bitch ass is sleeping of course, so once we talk to him he tells us basically the same thing. So once we find the first Chaos Emerald, we are cock-blocked by some sort of force field. And now it's Knuckles time, baby! Knuckles is tasked with destroying these things called impact towers, and once he destroys those and finds the Chaos Emeralds, we're once again cock-blocked. And last but not least, we play as Tails. He's tasked with finding these little Coco devices, and thankfully there isn't some stupid near-autonomous space shooter attached to it. It's just a simple click on it and it works. But once Tails activates them, now Knuckles and Amy can retrieve their Chaos Emeralds, and then Tails can go get one for himself as well. And that's pretty much what the 3 do in this story. Amy talks to the Coco to get info on the locations of the emeralds, Knuckles destroys impact towers, and Tails hacks Coco devices. But now that Tails has his Chaos Emerald, guess who it's time for? Now if you guess that it's Sonic's turn, it's actually Eggman's turn! You can play as him for a little bit too. Okay, let me stop. Yeah, it's Sonic's turn. What Sonic has to do is climb these towers similar to the one on Rayon Island, and after pouring blood, sweat, and tears into climbing these towers, we then interact with the souls of the Titans we previously fought. And then they give us a little trial to test ourselves before they help us one final time. And then it's back to playing as the other 3, all of them doing their specific jobs, finding the next 3 Chaos Emeralds, but this time, once they find these sets of emeralds, they seem to be having that cyber corruption that Sonic went through when he was going through it in the base game. And once we play again as Sonic, there's actually a surprise tower. This one belongs to a person named the Master King Coco, the leader of all of them. Sage tells us the Master King can use the cyber corruption Sonic was going through and turn it into a new power. But of course, there is one last trial we have to do, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But once completed, we are finally able to use that newfound power Sonic gathered to defeat the Great Cataclysm once and for all. And now it's Sonic vs Supreme, and since I had Sonic stats all maxed out, I beat his ass 6 waves from Sunday, so no shock there. But this time, instead of going to space to fight the End, the final battle actually takes place on Aranos, with the End supplying Supreme with some type of energy, and then the true final boss begins. With Supreme being charged up by the End, Sonic thought to bust out the new form where the cyber corruption comes here to help Sonic reach a higher being of Super Sonic. And in the files they call this form Super Sonic 2, but I just like to call this form Super Sonic Kaioken because, well, Anyways, around halfway through the boss, we use its weapon against the Titan, kinda like in Knight's case, but Supreme doesn't seem too happy by this, and launches a barrage of missiles at Eggman and Sage, but Tails, Knuckles, and Amy help keep the barrier up. But Supreme ain't having any of that, and launches a ginormous purple energy ball reminiscent of Nazo Unleashed. And Sonic loses like a bajillion rings at this, But since Sonic is just that guy, he survives the onslaught and explosion and turns back into Supersonic Kaioken. To finish the fight once and for all, Eggman calls Sonic to get inside of the gun, reminiscent of Sonic X. God, this was so cool. We also see Sonic become more corrupted, using all of it to get as much power as possible. With a surprising Sonic 06 reference, Eggman uses his glasses to line up the shot, shoots the gun, causing Sonic to completely decimate the Titan. Seriously, that motherfucker's just dissolved. But both enemies are easily taken care of. Sonic falls from space and back on Kronos, landing on his face. Of course, yep. Seriously, how in the world did he not feel any kind of pain from that high? I mean, sure, he's done it multiple times, but Jesus Christ, one of those has to hurt! But anyways, Sonic is alive and well, celebrates with his friends on a job well done, and this time Sage actually lives, so Eggman tells Sage that she did well, and that it's time to head home. And this moment was way too cute. Oh my lord, I loved every single ounce of the father-daughter moment in this scene. And that's the story I bit my tongue when I said that. And that's the story mostly. God, as much as I absolutely loved the ending, I honestly think the story bits beforehand was kind of weak compared to the rest of the game. I mean, structurally it's similar to how the base game was, but I think what made Frontiers' story so enjoyable was the fact that there were character interactions in between the story. Like, each of them had a conversation with Sonic, and both of them interacting with the world around them, giving their thoughts on this and that, and there's none of that here. I mean, sure, you can argue there was really no need of that because of the sheer urgency of the great cataclysm vastly approaching, but I don't know, I guess I just wanted a little more from it, I guess? Of course, talking to the souls of the previous Titan, talking to the Master King and all that stuff with Sonic is great, but I think my issue is with the other characters. While it is nice to see them back into some 3D action, I just wish there was more meat in their story sections. Even the little side conversations that you can do throughout the map feel so unnecessary and pointless, and provide barely any new interactions between them. When they're interacting with each other, most of the time it just dials down to, hey so-and-so, I'm a little worried about you. Don't worry about me. Remember, we all have a job to do. You are so right. Everybody has their own job to do. I think Char 5 explained it best when it comes to the optional side quest. Take a look.
Okay, I swear to God, man. None of that information was new to us. We already knew that only Sonic can access the trial towers. We already know that everyone has a specific job they have to do. But you know what we don't know? Why Sonic is the key. Why is it specifically that Sonic has a link with cyberspace? Why is he able to come and go as he pleases? What makes him specifically capable of activating the trial towers? I get it, he's a main character, but for a game where you tried to create a bunch of lore and most of Eggman and Sage's optional conversations involve explaining it, you can't even bother to explain why Sonic's so special? He's just built different?
And honestly, I think running into that video while writing the script for this perfectly sums up my issues with some of the story in this game. Go check out Char 5 if you haven't already, his stuff's great. But regardless, now that we got that out the way, let's get into what I think of the update gameplay-wise. So the Final Horizon update doesn't change much from the base game, but it does give Oranos Island a whole bunch of new challenges and stuff compared to the base game. And with the new content added from previous updates, we now have things like the spin dash for every character, and honestly great. My only issue is, why do Tails, Knuckles, and Amy get the spin dash in their skill tree, but I gotta work my ass off to get those stupid action challenges, huh? It don't seem fair. Whatever, let's break down each character and how I feel about them individually. So Amy, in my opinion, is probably the best character when it comes to platforming challenges. She has so many ways of reaching high terrain without just straight up flying, and it's honestly really fun to do so. I can't speak much on them combat wise because this update decided to beef up these mini bosses up to like 300, and I was having trouble beating them with maxed out Sonic. But in regards to Amy's moveset and feel, I'd say she felt the best out of all of them. She's got hops as if she was a fucking Mario character, and it's super fun. But there is one thing that bothers me, and that's, why the fuck isn't her hammer long jump move a thing in this game? Let alone, why is she using her hammer more often? Wasn't that hammer all we knew Amy for the longest time? But no, once you guys decide to remind the masses that Amy's a tarot card reader, you want to make most of her moves, especially towards combat, tarot card focus? Give me a fucking break. Absolutely unacceptable. If Amy comes back in a future game, I need those cards for her triple jump, and that's it! Sorry, got a little bit heated there. But enough about Amy. Let's move on to Knuckles. And honestly, he was the character I was looking forward to playing the most. I loved him in Sonic Adventures 1 and 2. I was so curious to see what they do with him here. And while he isn't too different, hell, they even gave him that Sonic Boost, Infinite Sonic Boost. God, can I read a fucking line without stumbling, please? I was so curious to see what they do with him here. And while he isn't too different, hell, they even gave him that Sonic Boom Infinite Jump glitch back, which was funny. But his glide, holy shit, his glide, what did they do to you? It feels so heavy, and turning feels like as if you were turning in a game like Sonic Generations while boosting. Look at how they massacred my boy! And his climbing feels a bit clunky as well compared to how it was in the adventure games. While his climbing is a lot faster than Sonic's and controls a lot better, I really don't like how if I want to go left and then immediately go right, Knuckles either stops for a second or goes into a little rotation instead of just going straight to the left or straight to the right. In the adventure games, I could pretty much just dash dance while climbing, and it felt like I had pinpoint accuracy when doing so. His skill tree does have some pretty nifty perks, like the infinite glide where he basically just flies around with his glide and doesn't lose any altitude. That was nice. But when it comes to his character overall, Knuckles gets a C tier. And finally, we have Tails, the cheater of the group. Our favorite two-tailed fox is back, and while he's not as good as he was in Adventure 1, he's still somewhat decent. He seems to be the long-range fighter out of the group, having his basic attack not be a homing attack and have it be a wrench, which was pretty hard to get adjusted to since Sonic, Knuckles, and Amy all have it. But I assure you, this will not be a problem in his platforming challenges, as Tails can just fly anywhere he wants, and I mean anywhere he wants. They brought back the Cyclone from Sonic Adventure 2, and this move is absolutely broken because you can literally just fly anywhere you want with no drawbacks. Sure, you need max rank and the boost meter, but both of those are easily subsided thanks to the Psyloop, which all 4 characters can do. Also, really missed opportunity to make the character Psyloop colors the same colors as they are, but, you know, it would have been such a cool detail, but whatever. When it comes to Tails in combat, he's alright, not as engaging as the other 3, but he's easily the best character when it comes to challenges and getting from place to place thanks to his multiple means of flight. So I'd say it's a fair balance to not make him the absolute best character in this game, because if he had some close range options like the tail spin or the homing attack, yeah, you just stick with Tails all the way through. He gets B tier. One thing that really sucks about the new characters is that you can only play them on Aranos Island. I'd love to see them on the other islands and see how they would break the challenges apart. Maybe someday someone can make a mod of it in the near future. But now that we got the new characters out of the way, let's talk about the things Sonic is tasked with doing. Now, of course, like I said in the story, Sonic has to ascend 5 towers, and whew, these towers, they were something, alright. This one tower with the dash panels flinging you off the platform if you so much as brush a quill on either of them, painful. It took me 16 minutes to climb this nonsense, and the worst part is that wasn't even the most difficult one! The second tower was giving me a lot of shit as well, mainly because of these tiny ass platforms and these pink breakable boxes where once destroyed, they don't reappear unless you load up a save file or die, which in the case of if you fall down, this tower is practically playing on very hard mode. The third tower was actually pretty fun, but sometimes when I destroy the pink boxes it would mess up my vision, leaving me confused on where to go next. The fourth one! Oh my god, the fourth one is the fucking worst. It's way too reliant on fan platforming, which for these do-or-die jumps is not the best thing. There's this one part where you have to get to one singular fan to get to a higher plane, but since there was only one, where the rest of them usually had like 2 to 6, it's very easy to overshoot yourself or misplace your timing because of how far away it is. There was also these things that you could homing attack, which had me stuck for a minute, but once I realized you could just Psyloop them, these weren't too big of an issue. But this tower still fucking blows, honestly. And the fifth tower is relatively simple, not as hard as the others. But after climbing each tower with Sonic, he talks to the spirits of the Titans we destroyed, and then we have to do a little trial to prove ourselves to these guys. The first 4 were pretty simple. The first one had the small fry be crazy flash? The first one had small fry be crazy fast and block every time I tried to homing attack, which was annoying, but I did it. The second trial was against the flower enemies, and I'm super glad that I learned about the best method of dealing with these flower enemies. The best way to get the most damage possible is to let them throw your flower boomerang and attacks him once he throws it, leaving him with no protection, and then parry it once it attempts to come back to him. Simple and clean. The third tower was against these wolf bitches who were super crazy fast, I don't know why they were, which is another simple one. It's the same enemy, just with faster attack and recovery, so nothing much to say there. And the fourth tower was against the ninja enemy with, once again, faster movement and recovery. Now my question is, why did it give us 10 minutes to fight this one enemy? I literally beat this asshole in 20 seconds. Now the last trial, the Master King Coco trial. I think it's safe to say that this is possibly one of the hardest things you'll play in Sonic history. Not only do you have a limited amount of rings to defeat all 3 previous Titans that you fought until this point, but you can't cheese them either by holding the parry button. Now for those unaware, I played this DLC in hard mode, so the time you have to perfect parry is difficulty sensitive. However, in hard mode, you get a whole 15 frames to parry attacks. which wouldn't be a bad thing. I've pretty much mastered other moves, especially in fighting games that were 15 frames or less in those types of games. But here's my biggest issue. Let's take Giganto for example. Take this big swing that he does right here. Now let me ask you something. When do you think is a good time to parry the attack? I'll give you 3 seconds. If you guessed when his hand came in contact with Supersonic, nope, it's a couple frames after this nigga did a whole turnaround and then the hitbox comes out, which can fuck with you a lot because you try to parry it when you see him swing and you just do it based off reaction because obviously... And now let's play another guessing game. So you managed to get hit by Giganto during the big swing. Now he's about to attack you when you're trying to approach him. When do you think it's an appropriate time to parry? After what we learned in the first lesson, I'll give you 3 more seconds. Okay, now with the knowledge of the previous quiz, if you guessed a little bit after his hand touches you, wrong again! They decide to make the hitbox the second it makes contact with Sonic. I don't know why they didn't do it before. Was it to perfectly fuck with us? Or to make us mad? Well, it's working! I don't like this! But even so, Giganto is piss easy, and I pretty much beat him in under a minute because of how much I fought him up until this point. Now, Wyvern. Wyvern. Wyvern is the absolute worst fucking boss in this entire game. Forget the final boss in the base game. Wyvern in this dumbass trial is the sole reason whenever I hear breakthrough at all, I'm gonna break through all my controllers trying to beat this motherfucker. Not only are his attacks super hard to hit, but oh my god, this motherfucker is the biggest waste of time. You cannot do shit unless you parry the missiles back into him, which is pretty simple to do because you have to parry it the second it makes contact. But oh my god, these attacks, even when you get close to Wyvern's attacks, are so telegraphed. You think he's gonna attack you right here, but you actually need to parry it here. And in phase 2, don't even bother trying to side loop the motherfucker, even though side looping does double damage to the Titans. After phase 1 in Wyvern's fight, he's just gonna break out of it and dick slap you for trying the same shit twice, which is parryable, but I guarantee 80% of y'all who first experimented with this strategy got punished for doing so, so don't even bother doing it in the first place. And in the second phase, you know how he attacks not once but twice after the missiles, which is also hard to do because of the timing of the hitbox not matching the animation. Oh, and one more thing, you know that finisher Supersonic does where he tosses Wyvern around as if he was playing Hammer Throw and Mario and Sonic in the Olympic Games? Yeah, don't do that either, because not only will it do baby damage compared to just wailing on him, but afterwards you have to go back to the waiting game, which means more rings wasted! If you thought base form dog guy on the 360 was bad, if you thought the boss fight in Techno Base was bad, if you thought Fang's boss fight in Golden Capital was bad, Wyvern is here to take the crown for the worst boss in Sonic history and hold the record for the next 20 years! Wyvern, if I see you in the streets, just know it is on sight! Now, when I got to 9, I wasn't worried a single bit, because every time he hits you in this fight, it triggers a cutscene where Sonic gets blasted towards the wall. And during this, you don't actually lose rings, so don't be afraid to just go in and wail on him, honestly, even if you get hit. But after completing the trial, after attempting it for almost 3.5 hours, I finally did it, and I felt like I really accomplished something. Well, no, it felt more like... yeah, like that. Now it's time to do the final battle, and honestly this boss wasn't as difficult as the trials, but it took me way too long to figure out what I needed to do, which I'm a little embarrassed to admit. And this final boss, 2 things. 1, don't mind my changing shirt, and 2, look, I gotta be honest with you guys. And to be honest with you, this final boss is... fucking incredible! Holy smokes, this is way better than the original one! Especially the battle cinematics, like, my god, these were so fucking sick! Like when Supremium threw that massive energy ball and Sonic lost a shit ton of rings but powered through it all and beat his ass? Or when Supersonic Kaioken did the Raging Demon? Look at the angle and the pose! Holy shit, this looks so good! Or the final cutscene when Sonic goes into Supreme's gun and all the guns all Sonic power get in this bitch! Oh my god, this is so good, man! Holy shit! The only thing that bothered me in this fight was that I couldn't see sometimes. There's a certain distance when your vision gets obscured by these dumbass trees, and it's so annoying when you're trying to parry the energy balls especially. Also, when you get hit by the balls, Also, when you get hit by the balls, your max ring count actually goes down, which sucks in the beginning part because you're regular Supersonic, so it's inevitable that your max ring count goes down, because normal Supersonic can't parry the energy balls for some baffling reason. But man, that finale, holy hell, it made me forget all the trials and tribulations I went through in this finale, and it honestly reminded me why I love Sonic so much, man. Holy shit. But that's not all the things that I wanted to talk about, so let's talk about some other things I ran into while playing this story. Now, of course, we can't talk about a Sonic game without mentioning the music, so let's talk about that for a second. Honestly, in this update, the songs that surprised me the most were the cyberspace themes. Instead of creating new ones, they decided to remix a few of them, but what they did was reassign them to different composers. For example, in the base game, Cyberspace 2-4, also known as Hype Street, was originally composed by Tomoya Otani, the sound director of this game. But in the Final Horizon, the stage was actually done by Rintaro Soma, the guy known for making Rumble Rave and Genshi. Here's what the two sound like side by side. God, this remix is so good, man. We need more house music in Sonic games. Someone should really make a YouTube poop music video on this song, bro. Wait a fucking minute. Well, actually, since I'm on the subject of cyberspace, these cyberspace stages are actually a lot more fun than the base game. Firstly, they're all 3D, thank goodness, and a lot of them have some sort of gimmick attached to them, which is actually pretty cool. Like how in 4-A, Sonic has this sort of rocket boost thing where it basically functions like how the boost did back in the Boost Formula games. The only thing I don't like is that it's this ugly orange fire aura. Why don't you just give him back his signature blue wind aura, please? Like, that shit is gross. Another gimmick I ran into was in 4-D. You have to be careful where you land, or else you'll land on a mine and just fucking... Also, for some reason, they decided to put more collectibles for you to get. I don't know who at Sonic Team thought that bringing that back from Forces was a good idea, but whatever. I never bothered to do them anyway, so... But going back to the music, these songs were all incredible. All the movement themes, my favorite one being Knuckles. A lot of the cyberspace themes I enjoy, and don't even get me started on the Kel and Quinn version of I'm Here. My goodness. I especially love the part that plays right before the final lyrics kicks in. The added vocals from Quinn and the new guitar solo, oh man, that is amazing. This version of I'm Here really redeemed the song for me. I also really love that for the remix of Orano's Island, all they did was just add a beat and a few other chords. See, even Otani knew that Orano's Island was the best island theme, so he didn't have to do too much to change it. But I digress. Next point. My goodness, Starfall is so much better than how it is in the base game. The fact that Biggs Fishing isn't present, hell, in the update they tell us he was never even there in the first place. But anyways, they decided to let you have star bits that give you Cocoa, Power Seeds, or Defense Seeds. One of those three. And bro, this changes the whole game where I actually want to have more star showers happen. I remember when it first happened when I was playing as Amy, I went to the Elder Cocoa and put all my stats towards speed, and I literally went from 1 to 99 because I had like over 9,000 Cocoa, and I ain't talking about Dragon Ball. But yeah, Starfall has been redeemed. well, I think that's all the major stuff I wanted to say in regards to this update. The final Horizon, while it being pretty difficult and Loki feels a bit rushed, honestly still has some pretty cool ideas and content that still make it a good time. I love the fact that we get to play as Tails, Knuckles, and Amy again in a 3D Sonic game, and if they're truly hell-bent on bringing back these characters in the playable spotlight again, I want to make sure that next time it's done better than this. Let Knuckles climb any vertical terrain and not just the contextual walls, give Amy more hammer moves for her combat, and for goodness sakes, give Tails his tail spin back. He's gotta have some form of close range fighting. And honestly, those cyberspace stages, I would love to see those kinds of levels fleshed out in more Sonic games. And not so much of the gimmick aspect of it, but in terms of the way you can beat the level. There were so many routes you could take that it was honestly so much fun. And finally, for God's sakes, can the next game have better animations and models? I can see that Sonic Team is trying so hard to make super cool cinematics with the resources they currently got. I see the vision, but God, the game needs to have more of a focus on how it looks visually as well. Yes, the controls and the stage design should be priorities number 1 and 2, but come on! We have yet to see a Sonic game that looks better than Unleashed, and that came out 15 years ago! I was in first grade when Unleashed dropped, and now I'm old enough to drink! Come on, Sega, you gotta give Sonic Team more time to cook in the oven. I can see it closer than ever that we are going to get a Sonic game that will truly become one of the greatest Sonic games to ever come out. We just need to give them time. You know, at the time of writing the script, Super Mario Wonder is only a couple days away from releasing, and I saw an interview with the game's producer saying that Mario Wonder had no developmental deadline, meaning that they were just working on the game and they were just gonna release it when it was ready. And I feel like most studios, not just Sonic Team, should do this. Sure, it may be a little worrisome that we haven't heard anything about a new Sonic game in a while, but hell, I survived the drought from Forces to Frontiers, and if they show me that the next game looks amazing, and it is amazing, I don't mind waiting as long as I have to, as long as it's delivered with quality. I apologize for rambling, but I just know Sonic Team is ever so close to making the next 3D game peak Sonic. But let's not dwell on wishful thinking, don't mind my changing color shirt again, and let's wrap up this video. So, with that being said, this is JPL signing out. I thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. I usually do it like this. Whatever. You guys know how I do it. Goodbye.